Uncouth Radio. We are live. We are on the air. We are in the house, and the house is packed. We have a lot to talk about today. We got some. I got a great guest joining us today. We got Q the Rebel, our usual co-host. We got Jackie Chandra in there giving you the sexy. I used to call me on my cell phone vibes. Uh, got the hotline bling vibes going on. We got my cousin actually, Ronell Crawford, also the co-host and I guess co-proprietor of the great podcast, 8-Bit Closed Fist, for all your nerd delights and all your video game and all your comic book shit and all of that, but also just a well-read, well-spoken guy who wanted to get on, tap in on this on the issue. So we're gonna talk about a lot tonight. But so everybody in the comments, make sure y'all tap in. We like to have y'all we like to have y'all in there with us. So we back on StreamYard tonight to try it, so we can try to get y'all input back the way it used to be. But first, let me say, I love all black people. I want to preface this whole conversation first, because we're gonna have a nuanced conversation that can sometimes be a difficult conversation. So I want to make sure I preface the whole entire conversation with this. I and my co-host, and I know my cousin right now too, if I can speak for him. I know we love all black people, no matter what sexual orientation, binary, non-binary, however you represent yourself. If you're a black person, I care about you and I care about your advancement. That's the baseline for this conversation, because I know the first place people go is just say you hate trans and go, just say you hate gays and go. And that's not always what it is. Even if our views don't align 100% on every single thing, that's not what that means. So having said that, we're going to jump into the conversation about, let's start with the Dave Chapelle special, The Closer. And it's funny because The Closer actually is a piece of a larger body of work that I think some people are forgetting about when contextualizing this conversation. It's the ending of like a six show special or something like that. So he is very what's the word? I guess you want to say risque with the language he's using. And at times very uncomfortable. And the funny thing is, the trans shit wasn't the shit that made me uncomfortable. With him talking about enjoying being molested by a Catholic priest, that shit nobody's talking about. Like that's the wild shit to me. That and Jews in space, like he got real wild in this special. But I think the thing that a lot of people latched on to was the oh, you said we not live on Twitch? Are we live on Facebook?
Facebook, you're live.
Oh man, let's see what's
Yeah, I'm not
going on.
sure why.
Okay, yeah, because it said we were you know
If
said
it
we
could
were
just be
on.
something weird, I don't know.
Yeah, let me try. Let's try this. Let's see if we could get you on like that. Facebook Live, we on? Okay. All right. Twitch, we should be on now. I just reconnected. Let me know if we're on now.
All right, got you.
Sorry, folks. We want to make sure we get everybody we can uh into this conversation.
Yep, you
Because I
are.
think this is a very important conversation to have. And I want to make sure that we have a full-throated conversation about this and about these issues. Are we on Twitch now? All right, good to go. All right, so like I said, there was a lot of uncomfortable moments in the Dave Chappelle special. Uh, I know that the big conversation was about his statements about trans folks, but I mean, this nigga went at everybody in a wild way. Like everybody, like he talked about beating up a lesbian, he talked about crackheads, like he talked about white strippers, like everybody. You know what I'm saying? But we know certain things are going to grab the headlines too. Me and Rynell, we kind of talked about this a little earlier in regards to even the Superman son being bisexual being the headline. Like, so we know there's certain things that's going to be the headline. But overall, if you watch The Closer, and this is one thing I did feel, I feel like a lot of people who had a lot of opinions about it didn't actually watch it. They just either listen to sound bites or listen to what other people said about it and jumped on with them. But let's get into it. Quincy, did you get a chance to watch it yet?
No, I've only seen clips.
Okay. What about you, Chandra?
No, same. I didn't even hear about it until I heard what was wrong with it. So I didn't even know, where is it? It's on Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I didn't watch it. I just had the little brief thought about because people are like, what if, what if there was a special attack in, like, black people or attack. I just feel like Dave Chappelle is just very equal opportunity offensive, and he's always been like that. So uh it's an evolution of, we just can't say and do certain things these days. That's just how it's become. Certain groups is just like, you're automatic. It's you're in that cancel discussion once you get there. That's just how it is. Because there are some things that you will look back on, even any, white comedians, any comedians, that's what they do. They make fun of everything. That's what, they make.
Well,
So I don't.
I'm glad you brought that up because somebody kind of made that point too. Somebody has said like, well, I hope you would keep that same energy for like a white comic that did that. And the funny thing is, I feel like if you had a white comic who was able to be as thoughtful and the manner in which he talked about it and brought it home, I would be fine with it. Which brought me to Bill Burr. Have you ever watched Bill Burr's comic? It's very similar to Dave Chappelle in that he'll say some shit that's really on that edge, but he's smart enough to kind of bring it home in a way that it makes sense and he can land it. So
Well,
go ahead,
his
Chandler.
wife is black, so right. That's the one whose wife is black, because I've seen like some of his stuff, and he kind of walks that line, but it's comedic in that it's not like a racist thing. It's more like of a, black people cultural thing, because I kind of had this experience because my wife is black, or it was his girlfriend at first, and then it was his wife. So, I guess maybe they're not comfortable getting to that as he is. But I
Well,
never felt like, oh, he's
well,
offensive.
I think it's because he's smart too. Like, because I think that's key, right? Like when you talk about a comic that's trying to walk on these very thin, brittle lines, you have to be very smart and you have to be surgical. So to me, Dave Chappelle is one of those guys who's surgical. And this time, he was not trying to be surgical, and I think it was on purpose. Like, you know what I mean? Like he was not trying to do with surgical precision on purpose. Because other times you've seen him walk this line in a surgical manner. But like I said, I seen Bill Burr do it. I wouldn't say Gary Owen Abdullah, because I think Gary Owen is funny and he has his own thing, but I don't think he has as highbrow, I guess you want to say, or as intelligent with his observations
You talk about
about
like dances and like clothes and stuff. Yeah, he be chilling.
He does do a lot of compare and contrast. Gary Owens, black and white people.
I think he does a lot of compare and contrast, but I don't think he is as subversive as a Bill Burr or a Chappelle, where it's like Gary Owens know his safe space. Like he kind of know where I can say this and I can go this far. But I feel like Bill Burr be like, I'm gonna dip my toe into some shit that might piss black people off. But when I land it, you're gonna fuck with it.
And honestly, with Bill Burr, if you watch some of his other like interviews and stuff outside of just like stand up, even when he's surrounded by white people, a lot of his politics, I think, line up and it's like okay with a lot of black people. You know what I'm saying? Like he'll be around some comics that'll say some wild shit, and Bill Burr just kind of be like, "No, that's dumb. Like that doesn't make sense." And then, now that clip is everywhere. Now people know that Bill Burr is kind of, I guess, an ally, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. So I go ahead.
I was going to say, why? It's weird that jokes are now called attacking. Like, I could think. I mean, I've said it on a post. Dave Chappelle, he had a whole skit, and it was a popular skit where he was a blind black Klansman saying all type of wild racist shit, and everybody laughed. No, folks wasn't unbothered. There's been a ton of black jokes. Chris Rock did a joke, the difference between black people and niggas. We didn't see people joke about the right. I mean, like back in the Def Jam days, there was a lot of comedians joking about the Rodney King situation. I mean, you go down a list, no one was ever untouchable. All of a sudden now, if you touch this particular group, you're homophobic or you anti. Whereas every group been touched when it comes to jokes. Like every group, black, white, Latinos, it didn't matter. And if that comic wasn't your taste, you didn't watch it. So all of a sudden now it's like, oh, okay. Not only I don't like this comic content, but I want to counsel him. Like, I was telling Chandra, I said Bernie Mac milk and cookies joke wouldn't go over well today.
Not at all. That shit wouldn't fly. He would get canceled for that.
Yeah.
King's Comedy would be over for that joke.
Yeah, and I mean, so I mean, damn near all of Eddie Murphy, that Mr. T joke on Delirious, like you go down the line where we talk about folks who are considered goats in comedy, they would have really trouble. They have trouble really, telling their jokes in today's society. And
well, I'm glad you brought that up, Quincy, because I actually think that was one of the reasons, like when I said earlier that he wasn't trying to be surgical. I think that's one of the main reasons he did that special this way, because he's seen that comedy was going to that place that you're talking about. So I think he was like, yo, I'm finna try to, for lack of better words, he's like, I'll sacrifice myself for the art. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's why he went that way and he went about that. So one thing I want to get into, I want to talk about the outrage from the trans community and outrage from the LGBTQ plus community. Now I will say this, because I'm not part of the LGBTQ plus community. When things like this happen, I try to reach out to people I know in that community and speak with them, in a one-on-one to get their perception, because it's not my place to tell them, what should hurt their feelings. It's not my place to tell them what they should be offended by. So I'm always open to listen, and hearing, what they feel. And of course, it's not a monolith. It's not a monolithic thing. Everybody not gonna feel the same way about everything. There were some people who were offended by it, but for the most part, I would say about 90% of the Black LGBTQ plus people that I've spoken to over the past few days, they actually agree with Dave Chappelle, and they said, like, all of them to a person said, "Where is the lie?" in what he was saying. Like, all of them said, "Where is the lie?" in what he was saying. And so one of my friends who was supposed to be able to join us tonight, I'm sure he won't mind me sharing this, because we talked about it. He said he was going to talk about it tonight. He said what Dave is talking about, and we actually had talked about this with Quincy back during the Black Lives Matter movement. Remember when they started the all Black Lives Matter shit?
Yeah.
And they started changing the Black Lives Matter flag to the rainbow flag.
Yeah.
He was talking about it then. Remember, I don't know if y'all remember, he came on Uncouth and he was talking about how white LGBTQ thought leaders were trying to take over in LA specifically, because I can't speak of anywhere else, but in LA specifically, the activists were trying to take over the Black Lives Matter movement with the all Black Lives Matter, and they were putting certain black folks up front of that movement. But he said it was like, gay white dudes behind it, behind that whole strategy and process. So even in that started the conversation back then, where he was talking about how pervasive racism is within the LGBTQ community. Like how he was like, even in the LGBTQ community, we are the lowest of low to them. Like they still are racist to us within that community. And that to me is the conversation that Dave was trying to have, albeit I think, like my friend Coon said, he said people weren't really listening. He said, because when he said, if you were really listening to me, I'm not talking about y'all, I'm talking about the white people. He was basically talking about because he even said in the joke, he said they are minorities until they don't have to be. So when you say that, he's not talking about Black LGBTQ community members. He's talking about the members like Caitlyn Jenner, who never leave their proximity of whiteness, no matter how much they want to swim around and dive into the LGBTQ waters. At the end of the day, Caitlyn Jenner still has her white male conservative views, that she had before she transitioned.
I
Go
mean,
ahead right now.
when he says that though, is he not still like when he says that, you know what I'm saying, he lined himself with like J.K. Rowling, is he not still attacking black LGBT community, black trans members,
I
right?
don't think
Because
so.
like,
I don't think so because, and I'll say this for me because I don't, I think that there's conflation sometimes, right?
yeah,
Because the things he said about about the white transgender and LGBTQ community was all based in power and position. If
yeah,
you're talking about power and position, you're not talking about black LGBTQ.
yeah.
You're just not. And all the things that he was talking about and all the things that he was referring to, if you think about it, it went back to power and position and power and proximity to that whiteness to be able to cancel with J.K. Rowling. Because I tell you what, black LGBTQ cannot cancel J.K. Rowling.
But here's the thing: he still aligned himself with TERFs, which is against still for the most part most trans people. You know what I mean? Like when you can say that you're against the white people, but if all of your message still attacks trans people and black trans people, if you still kind of say that they not really women, then that's
But
still
see, I don't
attacking.
see. Okay, so I don't think him saying they're not really women is an attack, because there
How?
is a difference. Because so this is what I want to talk about. This is what I want to unpack. Because there is a difference between trans women and bio women. Like even if I acknowledge that you're a trans woman, which I do, I'll acknowledge like yes, you're a trans woman. I'm not going to say you have the same life and lived experience as a bio woman, because that also goes to the erasure of bio women and further black women, because that's who's going to get hit first. Because if you think about it, think about this just for some context. Caitlyn Jenner, like he said in the special, Caitlyn Jenner, her first year of being a woman, won Woman of the Year. Now, mind you, she won Woman of the Year literally for just saying, "Yo, I want to be a woman now." But that's the year that, or what's the young lady at the WNBA who got all them black folks out of jail? She
Oh
quit.
yeah, yeah,
She,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
she
yeah.
Ma-
quit that
Yeah, yeah.
that year, huh?
Maya Moore.
Maya Moore. So this is the year Maya Moore had done all this justice reform shit. This is the year that we had a whole bunch of black women doing amazing things in sports and outside of sports. And ESPN wanted to do what? Celebrate a white woman who just said, "I want to be a woman." Now, of course, that's encouraging all that, but now what's happening? You have a used to be white man taking the space of a bio woman and a black woman where there's already not a lot of space for them to be celebrated.
But he still hit him with a gender is a fact type of that rhetoric though. He hit him with the gender is a fact. You know what I'm saying? He hit him with the free the baby speeches. You know what I'm saying? And here's the thing. Here's the thing. His perspective and his everything he's saying specifically about how trans people can often punch down on black people is true, right? Like we know this, right? Like again, the baby shot somebody, nothing happened, and then the baby mentions that somebody's LGBTQ kind of offends them, and now boom, he's out of there, right? Happens all the time, right? As soon as you mention the LGBTQ, boom, they out of there, right? But if you do something, get some black people, you know what I'm saying? You cool, no one cares. We got that part, right? That's cool, right? But you can't still attack the black trans people while you're trying to attack the white trans people, right? Like,
But so what do you call an attack on black trans?
kind of going for the you're not a real woman, right? That's come on, you know that.
Wait.
The,
So how is that an attack? Because I think so. So this is the thing. I think, like he said, this is a matter of perspectives. This is a matter like so because we have to recognize that also. This is a matter of perspective. It's not going to be the perspective of every single person that a trans woman is in fact a woman. That and right or wrong, we just got to talk about the reality of that, right?
Mhm.
The reality is every person's perspective and experience is not going to be you're the same as a bio woman. It's just not. So I know that's the, as you said, rhetoric, but that's the rhetoric they like to use to try to I guess attack people like Dave Chappelle. Like if you don't say I'm just the exact same as a woman, then you're transphobic. And I think that's an issue.
See, and that's the thing. You don't have to do that. And I get it. It's Dave Chappelle, and he wanna touch that. He wanna get that edge. You know what I mean? Like that shock a little bit. But when you align yourself with an anti-trans community like the TERFs and say those things, then it starts to look bad, right? Like if you just say like, "Yo, I'm not sure, if I really rock with the all trans women are women movement." That's one thing, right? But when you say that, then say free the baby, you know what I'm saying, which is a person who has attacked them recently, right? In a way. And then you go into say, I kind of rock with JK, and then go to say that you rock with the turf, and then say trans women aren't women, right? And then kind of use that death thing was weird, but that's another story. But mentioning the Daphne thing, that was weird. That felt weird. Mentioning the his trans friends' deaths throughout that whole special was odd. That didn't feel like I got a black friend, so it's okay. That's
It
what that
didn't.
felt like.
It didn't to me because he's talked about Daphne and even dedicated one of the specials to that. He's talked about Daphne before this. Now, if he would have brought this up like only after he had ever been attacked, then I would feel that you know that the black friend thing that you're talking about. But he's often talked about Daphne and referred to Daphne before this.
Yeah,
Um,
but this is his apology tour. Like this is his not his apology. He's not apologizing, right? This is
right, not
his
at all.
no, this is his to end all tour, and right, and him bringing that up throughout. That's really his token friend type shit. Like the way that he's mentioned it, at the least, I don't know what kind of relationship they have, but the way that he's mentioned it throughout this whole time, kind of recalling back to her and her death, especially now that she's passed away, that's wild to me. That's wild to me. That for sure felt like black friend,
Well,
for sure.
for this, I got to take the cue from her family, right? Because for her family, she said they said that was their relationship. That was how they got down, and even they said even the way he brought her up and the jokes and all of that, they were like Daphne would have loved that. So if that's his tribute to her in that way, based on their relationship, then I'll have to go with that because they know better than I do about the relationship between Dave and Daphne.
And you can, right? But just like if it's a white person to say I had a black homie and all the black homies' families like, yeah, they was cool like that. That don't mean their relationship wasn't. You know what I mean? That don't mean that he may not be using them. Donald Trump could have said Kanye was a cool nigga, right? And Donald Trump's friends and Kanye's family could have said, no, they cool like that, like chill. But we still see it as a yo. Donald Trump was probably token type shit. You know what I mean? And I think that situation felt weird like that. And it's been said that some of her roommates and stuff said that that wasn't even the reason as to why she necessarily committed the suicide. But that's a little bit more rumor. But that's even what had happened with that,
I,
and it just felt weird.
I did see that joke. Um, I think the point that, well, this kind of how I took it is that I think the point he was trying to make is I was cracking or telling jokes. What you guys accused me of doing, you actually did to my friend. Your intentions with Daphne was hateful. Just because she stood up for me, where my intentions was just telling jokes, making people laugh. And so it was almost like he was calling them hypocrites because it's like, here you are, you're trying to say that I was spreading hate, and I have a friend who are laughing at my jokes, come to my shows, and enjoy my content, and then the same hate that you guys accusing me of doing, you actually do to her. And to me, it was like he was pointing out that contradiction with the gay community and what they tried to accuse him of actually doing and what they actually did to his friend.
Yeah, that was his goal. That was his point for sure, right? Like his point was the fact that that's what had happened. But I just bringing that up constantly, bringing her up kind of constantly throughout that to that end, even to go into the death thing. It definitely still felt I got a friend. Like even if I believe that that's their relationship, I do. I genuinely don't think that he, I don't know, kind of kept her around just for fun. I believe that they were dope and cool as fuck, but that doesn't really change the thoughts and feelings of other members of the community and how they feel about it, right?
It doesn't, but I think sometimes we have to. So I think the issue with these conversations is when we have the conversations, there's one side being heard, if that makes sense. Like when we have these conversations, and this is kind of what Dave was talking about. If you don't align with every single thing that community says, or if you don't agree with the conversation is over. We can't even. There's no middle ground. And I've had these conversations personally before, where it's like, no, I don't really agree with that, and they're like, oh, you're homophobic, you're transphobic. Like it goes straight to that a lot of times, not all the time, but it goes straight to that a lot of times. So, and I think that's kind of what Dave was talking about was like, because he even said like, at one point he was like, I'm not saying that my point of view is the only point of view. He's like, I actually believe that more than one point of view can exist. But the problem is the hypocritical side from that community is they don't feel that way. So they want you to see them how they want to be seen and da da da. But they also don't want to have conversations with you to either educate you or see why your lived experience has you thinking the way you are. Like there was a activist on, I wish I could remember his name, on Roland Martin show, and he said something great. He was an not anti, he was an LGBTQ activist, and he was talking about the baby, and he was saying like, like even with Dave Chappelle bringing up the baby, he was like, when the baby did that, he was like, I thought that should have been a time where the LGBT community stepped to him and was like, all right, now why did you say that? Why did you think in the middle of a concert that ain't have nothing to do with sucking dick, you was gonna be like, who ain't sucking dick in the car? Like he like, what? You know what I'm saying? He was like, we should have unpacked that shit. He said instead of canceling, we should have tried to get with him and unpack it. He said because if we can unpack that with him, we'll be unpacking that with a whole demographic of young black men. He said, but that's not what we did. You know
Would
what I
you?
mean?
Would you though? You know why he said it? We said it because Lil Nas X was performing. He was doing his whole tour. We knew there was nothing to unpack with the baby. Like he knew what he was saying. You know what I'm saying? Like it would be correcting long misconceptions, which is not gonna stop niggas from feeling uncomfortable for being around gay people. You know what I mean? Like it wouldn't really, right? At that point, even the baby probably still feels the way he feels, right? But he got his money took away, so he gotta apologize, right? He gotta act a little different.
I just think there's a huge double standards and gay privilege that's going on because it's. I look at what the baby said. That's no different than. I mean, I didn't hear all type of shit, you know, at concerts regarding, if you know if you don't have $10 in your pocket, you're a broke ass nigga. All type of things that people say. But then Lil Nas X go on TV and say fuck them kids, and everybody just roll with it. If Lil Bootsy or the baby or anybody would have said fuck them kids, that shit would have came out completely different. And it's like it's like people are picking and choosing what to be outraged about, and to me it's causing a huge it's like a huge double standard. And it's like at the the gay community, in one aspect they want to be treated like everyone else, and until it's time to be treated like everybody else, then it's like, oh no, you can't say this about us, you can't mention that. Where every group, like I said, could be offended by something every single day. And I can't believe now we are getting to a point where we're breaking down a comedian content as if like he's some like Barack Obama. Never have like we have had to sit down and break down a show that Richard Pryor did. A lot of motherfuckers' feelings gonna be hurt. And it's like, has society changed that much to like the point we have to like break down a comedian's content as if like to me, I've always looked at comedians like, okay, it's a comedy show, it's a comedy special. Now we're breaking them down like they Dr. King or prominent speakers. They like you know,
Farrakhan.
Farrakhan or some shit. And it's like,
Well, Quincy, to your point, and I think, and this was to me the largest point that I feel like Dave was trying to make with what he was saying in the special, and it was proved the day after, as a matter of fact, and we'll get into that next. It was literally proved the fucking day after. But what he was getting into was destructive behavior towards black people is accepted universally, unilaterally, no questions asked. You could do whatever you want to say in regards to destructive behavior towards black folks. But the minute you have any kind of destructive behavior, like you can, like the whole point of the baby shot a nigga and he hurt gay people feelings. He was saying you can have destructive behavior when it's between black people, even resulting in real violence. But the moment you have something destructive to say about the LGBTQ community, you're over, you're done. He was saying also, well, I want that same kind of fervor for us. I want that same kind of, if that's destructive to them and this can happen, this is the result. Then why isn't that result when there's destructive shit about and towards black people? And that goes back to the time when he was saying Netflix said he couldn't say the F word. And they like, why I can't say that? And they were like, well, because you're not gay. He said, I say nigga all the time. They said, well, he said, well, I ain't a nigga either. So it goes back to that. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, oh, it's okay for us to be destructive to ourselves on these platforms, to each other in TV specials. It's okay for me to play like a slave on the Dave Chapelle show and be a crackhead and Fear Factor. It's okay for me to be a white KKK member and say all kind of wild shit about black. Like, all that shit is okay. But the moment I say something about the gay community, now it's not okay. I think that's the overarching message that was happening.
Yeah, that's exactly how I took that joke. That although, I mean, in the baby situation, it was self-defense, but the fact that nobody even asked questions about it, he just killed the nigga, and people are like, okay, cool, move on. You know, like folks didn't even question to get the details about it. And but the moment, you know, he mentioned about sucking dick in a parking lot, it was outrage.
I mean, that point that he made right there, 100% facts. 100% facts, right? I think we all, I don't say we all, but like a lot of us know that fact, right? That's just a real thing that happens. And that, he was right. And I think he tried to make it his way over to that. But in his way in between that, he just stepped on a bunch of toes and he didn't. He tried to muddy it with defending his own politics and making it seem like it's some cancel culture or people just hating on him or it's some other shit, when in reality, it's just his own personal politics that don't really align with what other people was hearing. And a lot of people are going to not fuck with him for that. But if his main point was to get to black people, you know what I'm saying, and LGBT and how and the difference between how we're each ridiculed and criticized and punished, that's a solid point. That's a real point that he made there, right? It's just getting to it that just didn't. He fucked it up. He fucked up getting to it. I think. I really do. Even the blackface, comparing the trans people to blackface, that didn't really make it. It wasn't working. It wasn't working, and I really think it's because he's getting old.
And that's where I think you're wrong. I think more people feel that way than you realize. Like when he was talking about comparing the blackface, when he was like, "You doing an imitation of me," there are a lot of women, bio-born women, who feel that way about trans women, but people don't want to acknowledge that and really have that conversation. And that's what I kind of said on my post. Where I said he's really trying to have a conversation that's going to take a lot of nuance and a lot of critical thinking to be had. But because of how, visceral the reaction is to saying certain things, people won't even really have the conversation. Like the conversation that bio women have behind closed doors about trans women, they will never have out loud because they will be deemed transphobic. Even though they're saying, from my conversations that I have, they're like, no, it's like women, especially specifically black women, they're like, we are still fighting for our spot and our spaces in this life. And now you have mostly specifically white trans who could come in and get better treatment than us already off top. I can't say out loud that I have a problem with that though. So I don't think it's because, I think it's because he's being subversive and saying things that a lot of people think and want to say, but they are afraid to say it because you can't have this conversation, because the moment you're deemed transphobic and homophobic, it's shut down and you're a rap and everything is over.
But in the
Even if,
midst of that, he's attacking. I mean, in the midst of that, he's stepping on the toes of black trans women, who is really at the bottom, right? You got the
but
black
he
women.
wasn't. But see, so he wasn't, because he even said, and this is what I mean when I say people listen to what they wanted to listen to. He said the people that I admire are those Stonewall type gays. And when he said that, he was talking about somebody very specific, if you know the historical context of what he was talking about, even when he brought that up. He was talking about Marsha P. Johnson. And Marsha P. Johnson was a trans woman who was known for being she's basically the Crispus Attucks of starting that riot for gay people, which ended up being the beginning of the Pride Parade. When he said, he said, those, that's who I respect. That's who he said, because they really got out and they did the work. So he talked about black trans women and their attributes to the movement. Their attributes to the movement. He even talked about. That's what I say with people missing what they want to hear, because like you say, oh, he's stepping on toes, but like even with him stepping on toes, he was saying a lot of real shit about the trans community that nobody's paying attention to, because nobody brings up how he's talking about Miss Johnson. Nobody brings up how he's talking about Marsha P. Johnson in that moment when he was talking about real trans activists. You understand what I'm saying? And I know he did that to make the distinction. When I say what I'm saying, I'm talking about those who use their white proximity to be minorities when it's convenient, because he specifically said that. That's who I'm talking about. He said, but the ones that I respect, and then that's when he alluded to Marsha P. Johnson. So no, he's not stepping on black trans people. And I'll tell you even further, the black LGBTQ community have these same conversations amongst themselves about how they're stepped on and how they're just like the feminist movement with black women. It's like a fucking mirror image of the same thing. Black women, black LGBTQ plus, they step up to fight for every single thing in the movement and to help push the movement forward. And they are at the forefront of a lot of the things that spark the movement. But the moment you need that same community to speak up for the black trans women that's killed, speak up for black women erasure and black women not being the most educated and not getting the kind of jobs they get, when you do all of that and when you speak to all of that and when you see all of that, that community does not step up for them. And these are the conversations they're having within that community even. So no, he's not. But I'm saying people want to pick and choose, because even like you see the lady, the young trans woman who came out for who's the showrunner for Dear White People. It's a white trans woman. Oh, I'm not ever doing anything with Netflix again, but it's a white trans woman running a show called Dear White People about the black experience in college. Like, come the fuck on, man. And that's
Hey, hey, look, I get what he's saying, right? He's kind of trying to say like the Stonewall people, the Stonewall women, they didn't take shit, right, etc. And this is also why, again, his delivery falls, and he's holding on to this cancel culture attack type of mood or whatever to get a certain audience, because you can say that they didn't take shit, but his whole thing is his whole like last 3 specials have been him complaining about the LGBT community complaining against him, right? And even with that, if you're trying to throw respect to those women by saying, like, mentioning their name, kind of like the name drop, you still can't, they still would be offended by you saying that they aren't real women, that gender is a fact, that you are a TERF. That's not for trans women. TERFs are not for trans women, right? So you say that, you name drop them, but you still go back and say all those things, right? You hit them with a but. Everybody knows anything before the but is erased after you say the other things, right? This is like you're saying, if a white person was to be like, yo, you know what I'm saying? I really rock with black people and I think they're cool, but I do align myself with the KKK.
and you think that's the equivalence here?
Yeah.
Then I think that's the issue.
Damn near.
No, because no. See, that's a false equivalent, because the KKK has actually went out and done real harm to black folks, like physical harm.
Yeah.
Has Dave Chappelle went out and done physical harm to trans folks?
Harm.
No. That ain't no. That's no, because if we're talking about equivalence, you can't harm. No, if we talking about going out, pulling people out their houses, hanging them, and burning them, has Dave Chappelle done that?
The equivalent would be the fact that you are aligning yourself with someone who is against a certain people. That would be the equivalent. So I can say that yes, him saying that he is aligning himself with the anti-trans women would be TERF. That is the equivalent. An anti-black person would be KKK. Has he killed anyone? No. But he has punched someone's titties into tender meat.
And that was a lesbian. That wasn't even trans. So that don't even work. That wasn't even a trans. That was a lesbian.
But I would consider it. I mean, it's clearly the organizations are not equivalent, but him comparing himself to it would be a similar equivalent, a similar feeling. Yeah, you can mention all these people, but when you hit them with a butt and you say things that purely going against them, then you are still stepping on those toes.
So this Manisha, and I don't disagree with that. Black trans women experience high levels of violence and death. They do.
The worst.
They out of everybody.
Yep.
And again, he said specifically he was talking about the white people. So if y'all want to keep interjecting the black trans in that, when he said specifically, I'm not talking about them, I don't know what to do about that, because that means you're making the decision, to use cognitive dissonance to make your argument. Because he said, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about white. And because if he was talking about black trans, he wouldn't have said they want to be minorities until they don't have to be a minority, because that wouldn't even apply to black trans. Correct?
Which is why his whole special kind of erases black trans women. That whole special is kind of just taking them out and just like, all right, y'all are immune to this.
No. No, it's not. Because what he was saying was, when he was talking about black folks, when he was talking about that's for all black folks, including black trans. When he said, I want the same outrage for for shit that happened to black people as that community gets, he didn't say, I want that same outrage for all black people except trans black people. He didn't say that. Y'all made that distinction, but he didn't say that. He said everything he said. He said for black people and against white supremacy. If he's saying I'm talking for all black people and white supremacy, that includes them, especially when he's saying specifically I'm talking to the people who use their whiteness and proximity to their sexuality. It's a very specific conversation.
I don't disagree. That it is necessarily that is a separate conversation. However, I do not think that he went well with his delivery in it. I think he tried. I think he could have. If he wanted to. I just think he wanted to stick to I'm going to say what I want. You know what I'm saying? I'm Dave Chappelle, and I'm going to say this, and people who are anti-cancel culture are going to rock with me. I think that's what he was leaning on. I think that's what he was kind of banking on, because I think he could have made all of this. He could have been surgical with all this. Like, we both agree that he didn't want to, but I think our reasons is why we think that he didn't want to are different. I just think that he is banking on, I'm still Dave Chappelle. I kind of do what I want. I say what I want, and
I disagree because he's too smart for that. Like, because now you're taking away the credit for how smart he is. So let me ask you this. Well, let me ask you this, Rondell, and give me an honest answer. If he was surgical, the way we talked about, do you think we would be sitting on Uncouth right now having this conversation?
No.
Exactly.
I don't think so. Which is my point too, though. He's getting the stuff.
So that's why I think your reason of like, oh, he's just getting out of touch. I think that's incorrect. I think it's on purpose to have these conversations, to have it up front. Think about how many trans people have been on CNN the past few days because of this. Think about how many trans people have been on Roland Martin show because think about how many trans people have been able to be on the Breakfast Club and all that because of this, to get their side and their messaging out. You think at what cost to get this messaging out, right? If your message is fucked up, if it's not received, then it's not received, right? If you got everyone saying how negative it is, then it's not going to work, right? He could have did both if he wanted to. It is working. No, it is working, because Flame Monroe would have never been on CNN in a million years. Flame Monroe would not have been on CNN in a million years unless that had happened.
I believe it. I believe it.
And because Flame and Roll got to give their perspective and their point of view. You know what I'm saying? Because of this, you have LGBTQ activists who are getting screen time and TV time that they never would have got to tell their point, to tell their pros and cons if they agree or disagree with it or not. But they're getting platforms that they never would have gotten if it wasn't for this special. Correct?
Do you think that was his purpose?
I do, because he even said, if you paid attention to even the joke at Daphne at the end, he's talking about the human experience. I 100% do.
And the human experience thing wasn't even solid. That was a
But
I don't see color thing.
No. See, I think you projecting on that. I think you're projecting, bro.
I just want to Daphne. Okay, Daphne hit it. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to speak. You know, but the human experience thing was clearly a ploy. It was a propaganda for him to make it seem as if we're all just in it together. When his whole special, and like you said, his whole point is counter to that, because we're clearly not all in it together.
But I don't
we
think
clearly have
no. But I don't
differences.
think his point. So I don't think his point was actually counter. I don't think his point was counter to that. I think his point is, even if I have a opposing point, even if I have a different point of view for you, that don't mean I can't empathize with you and your pain as a human. I think that's what it was, because he said that. Like, even if we don't align on everything, which sometimes, like, me and you are family and we don't align on everything, but that don't mean I don't empathize with you as a person and as a human.
And that's why, and right, and this is what I mean, right? I think that he, being Dave Chappelle, he wanted to say his piece, right? He didn't want to apologize, right? He wanted to do his thing, and he believes it, right? It's a part of his actual politics, like you said, he's a turf. But with that, he still feels like, he even said it in his special, it kind of shined a light on it. He doesn't like being, I think, maybe misunderstood, right? He doesn't like the fact that, you know, people would say that he hate women. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't like that, right? That's why he's going on 3 specials trying to fix it, right? He's going on all this trying to fix it up, right? Because him personally, not comedian, not, you know, actor, nothing. Dave Chappelle doesn't like that. He didn't like feeling misunderstood, I guess. Through that journey, he realized that he feels some type of way, right? He has certain opinions that won't work well, you know what I'm saying, in society or whatever right now. And throughout the whole series, that's what he's been doing, trying to fix it. And in the midst of that, speaking some truth. And that truth is that Black people and our punishments is just different from white trans people and how they can kind of maneuver. I think that's what that ended up being. And I think that's why it came off as such a defensive, the whole special was defensive, right? He was defending himself that whole time. And that's why it came off that way, because he has a problem with it. But the way it came off, it just wasn't working. It wasn't working, Dave. It wasn't working.
I think it is working. It's still number 3 on Netflix in the world. And
I mean, money wise,
I think it's working for, like, that's the thing. Like,
Dave's gonna make money.
I think your point of view isn't the only point of view in this. So you think it's not working, but I think a lot of people think what he did and how he did it was working.
Because the people who don't care too much or feel certain type of way have opinions that align with Dave Chappelle's are going to agree with those opinions. There's a lot of people who don't really fuck with trans, do feel like gender is a fact, who do feel like, you know, they aren't necessarily real women, etc. So of course that they're going to take those things and rock with it. And also he's putting the Black thing in it, which I agree with. I don't want to say it's a Black thing like it's like a black car. Like, he is mentioning a very valid point. So those things I take and I accept as truth, right? That's true. However, there are other things that are not true. And a lot of people are either going to be with him or against him. That's just kind of how people are. And I think people are just taking the with him.
Right. So, and that's what I say. I think that goes to my point about, like, you said it's not working. I'm like, in a way, it is working, right? It's probably not working for you because you don't like the way he got to his conclusion. So it's probably not working for you because you don't like the way he got to his conclusion. But I think it's working because, like I said, there's a lot of truth in it, and there's a large demographic that aligns with him. Because, like I said, I don't consider myself Team Turf, but I do think there is a difference between a trans woman and a bio-born woman, and we should be able to say that and not be called transphobic, right?
I don't know 100%. how that will work. We would both need an actual trans person and multiple trans people to kind of really speak onto that. But I don't know, right, if that would be possible. I don't know if that would be possible. I do think that that would go against a lot of their, right? And I don't know.
Exactly, and that's fine. No, you're right. That would,
Yeah.
but so that would go against a lot of. But does that mean because I don't align with everything that they align with that I'm transphobic automatically? And so that's my point. That's the problem, and that's the issue, right? Because even if I say I don't think a trans woman and a bio woman are the exact same, that's not me saying I hate trans women. That's not me saying I hope something violent happens to trans women. That's not me saying I don't think trans women should be treated with respect. That's not none of the above. That's me saying there's a lived experience that bio women have that trans women don't have, and vice versa. And that's just a reality, period. Like that's just a reality. So if me stating that reality makes me transphobic, then we do have the problem that Dave is talking about.
And I think you can. I really do think that you can say that. I think you can say that you don't necessarily believe that, and that you know, whatever it is. I think you can say that and still not be considered transphobic. I just don't think you can say that along with a whole bunch of other things that also will rub them the wrong way to make you think that you're transphobic. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you be like, yo, I don't know, I want to make a weird comparison, off the top of my head comparison, but if you're like, I don't fucking know. Oh, if you black people should probably do better in their communities. I don't know. It's about to be terrible. Don't judge me on this example
Yeah.
I'm about to give right now. I know everyone in the comments over there on Facebook already hates me, but if they said like, you know, like everybody of black people, like y'all do need to like worried about that gun violence a little bit. Like the gun violence is kind of crazy, right? But I do rock with y'all. I know this, I know that, you know what I'm saying? You're cool. I don't think anyone's gonna say that you're racist. Right. I think if you say y'all need to work on that gun violence, and like to be honest, I think that y'all brains do work a little differently. And like, if I'm keeping it 100, I keep it 100. I rock with y'all, and I even have a best friend who's black, who's been through a lot of things, who rocks with me, who agrees with what I'm saying. I also do think that y'all don't really want to work as hard. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you say all those things, then it's gonna be like, yo, nigga, you're racist. But I think if you had said that one thing, yo, I don't necessarily agree with that. But to align yourself with a whole group of people who are transphobic.
Well, I think some of that is the comedy too. Like, and I think that's what gets lost because it wasn't a lecture; it's a comedy special, and we use hyperbole when it comes to, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to comedy. So I think to take some of those things literal would be a little disingenuous because that means you have to take every single thing he said in the special literal. You know what I mean? So I think we have to be kind of careful to contextualize shit really. Like Quincy said, like he wasn't giving an I Have a Dream speech. It's also a comedy special. You know what I mean? So there's things he's saying that's subversive and that people like, but I think we got to be careful not to take him saying like, "Oh, I'm Team Turf," as if he's like literally part of the organization, or if it was to make a non-subtle point. You know what I mean? Within the special.
And to his own thing, right? A lot of his issue was with, you know, he didn't like the way people were taking his jokes, right? He didn't attend it that way, right? Like a lot of the times you're like, he didn't attend it that way. He didn't attend it that way. But he still felt some type of way when they took it that way.
Hold on,
Right?
let me address this comment from the audience real quick. Manisha said, "If your intent isn't to offend, hurt, increase harm, but it harms that matters." Thank you for saying that because that's also his point. Like, yo, if it's harm to them, why doesn't the harm to us matter? Now, people probably don't like that. That's the way he frames the argument, but it's a true and real argument, and it's a true and real argument in this moment in time because now let's transition it to the next point. Right after this Dave Chapelle special came out, John Gruden, the coach of the Raiders, his emails, nigga had an email issue like Hillary Clinton. And his emails came out, and on, was it Friday, Quincy?
Friday.
Friday, the emails came out, said he was saying some racist shit, big lip black niggas, and nigga lips like the Michelin tires, and and I don't care. They should stop worrying about concussion protocol. And he was saying some wild shit. So from Friday to Sunday, you had them trotting out all the black athletes to come support him and say he ain't really racist. And I rock with John Gruden. Woo, woo, woo. The moment a homophobic slur was found in the email, that nigga was fired the next day. Even though he was working in football, which is probably 80% black folks, that wasn't enough to be destructive behavior to get him fired. It wasn't until he said a homophobic slur that's what got him fired, which to me beautifully proved Dave's point at the way black folks can be discarded right now. Because you talking about the harm that's done to others, but nobody gives a shit about the harm that's done to us. And that's an issue.
That fact is fact, right? That is it. That is it. That is
I think
that is definitely couldn't have happened more perfectly for him.
Him bringing up that contrast just that makes him homophobic, because it seemed like I'm sitting here listening. So for example, kind of go back a little bit when Dame said that a lot of women have issues with transgender. I know for sure in like sports with transgender women playing in women's sports, a lot of women feel there's a huge advantage, especially in
Track and field,
UFC, because a lot of you're fighting a man. I mean, we could say because of gender change or whatever, but you have a woman in there fighting the X-Men, pretty much. So with that being said, because I have an issue with transgender in sports, because I feel there's definitely, I mean, can you imagine if LeBron James had a sex change and went to the WNBA? I mean,
nigga, wouldn't be no GOAT debate.
A lot of people would be watching the WNBA.
There wouldn't be no GOAT debate in the WNBA.
But I say this to say, with how I feel about transgender women in women's sports, if I was a comedian and I made jokes about how I feel about transgender women in women's sports, would that make me transphobic or homophobic?
I personally don't think it would. I think you said it right. You feel me? I don't think it would. I think you said it just like that. I mean, there will be some people who will absolutely call you transphobic.
I was gonna say, because we've had this conversation on my page.
There will be.
We've had this conversation on my Facebook page, and that's what happened. We was called homophobic and transphobic for having this conversation in this exact way that you're talking about right now. And this is the thing that Dave is talking about, right? Like, this is the thing. Like, there's times where we can't even have the conversation without people casting aspersion on us and want to say, well, if you don't agree with me, you're homophobic. If you don't agree with me, you're transphobic. I'm like, no, it's not. Like, I think there's nuance to some of these conversations. I think there's other factors. Like, for example, in the UFC, the young lady who fought a trans woman in UFC who got her whole shit rocked, like her eye socket got broke out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's because the young lady she was fighting had a upper hand on strength. Because also we can't pretend that bio men aren't stronger by and large, not all the time, because there's some Olympic lifters that'll probably fuck us up. But bio men by and large are stronger than the average woman. Can we agree on that?
Oh, for sure.
Right. So if you saying, well, we have to treat this trans woman exactly the same way we treat this bio woman, and this bio woman got to fight this trans woman. And then you say, well, no, that's kind of putting her at a competitive disadvantage. Oh, you can't say that. You're transphobic. You don't want trans people living in the same spaces as women. That's what happens. And I think that's a lot to the point of Dave's special is like, this is the society that we're in right now, where to even call into question something as small as a competitive advantage, you will be deemed transphobic, and people will start hitting you with the gay talking points.
Yeah, because see, I think even if he wasn't as so raw with it, he still would have received this backlash. It seemed like it seemed like that community don't want to be touched at all as far as in the comedic industry. And unfortunately, in comedy, someone's gonna always be offended. Me and Dane was having a discussion last week. We was talking about how like we were like fallen comedy like to a T. And Dame, tell him about Corey Holcomb. If you don't know who Corey Holcomb is, Corey Holcomb is probably that nigga offends me with some of the shit he said. Corey Holcomb is cutthroat, offensive, but that's, to me, that's not my preference of comedy, and so I had to kind of step back from following Corey Holcomb. Now, you still go to his shows; it's still sold out. People still go, and to me, that's just part of comedy. You're gonna offend some people. There's no comedian that never did offend somebody. Eddie Murphy talked about on Raw how Bill Cosby didn't like his comedy. Well, he turned that into a joke. And because right now Dave is under attack from that community, he's going that's what comedians do. They turn whatever they're going through at that particular time into a joke.
Let's address this comment from Fantastic Frankie on Twitch. Most trans women that are going through hormone treatment have similar estrogen and testosterone levels to cis women. Black women have higher testosterone levels than white women. Should we not compete either? So that's not an apples to oranges comparison. I know people want to think that is, but testosterone levels does not change the physical makeup of that woman. The testosterone levels does not change the physical strength of a trans woman.
There's nothing you could give Mike Tyson that if he wanted to have a sex change, that's gonna make his strength equivalent to a woman.
I mean, the thing about is my mic hella loud, bro?
No, you good.
The thing about the thing about the comedians is that I think Dave Chappelle could have said this. I think he could specials ago. I think he could have said what he said, offended who he offended, kept it pushing. We probably would have never talked about it again. LGBT community necessarily. The ones who didn't like him could have not liked him. The ones who did like him could have still liked him, right? However, he didn't. He chose to keep it going. There's tons of comedians who are still spitting it hard. You clearly just named one, right? So there's comedian. If there's a way to do it, you can still keep it pushing, right? You can still keep it pushing. If you just kind of get over it, I guess.
Let me address it. She said trans women don't be like Mike Tyson. Did you watch the Fallon Fox fight? Go watch the Fallon Fox fight and come back and tell me about your science. Go watch the Fallon Fox UFC fight.
She broke that girl's face. But you know, what's it?
Cis men not even like Mike Tyson. Exactly. So I mean, of course, Mike Tyson is like the extreme of male specimen. So of course it'll be easy to be like, but nobody's saying trans women are like Mike Tyson. I'm still saying even with because again, if LeBron James start taking testosterone today, Fantastic Frankie, and LeBron, she went to the WNBA, she's still gonna have a competitive advantage.
Yeah,
she just is like. She's still going to be 6'8" and probably stronger than everybody and one of the few that can dunk off vert.
And right now,
jersey sales.
There's about 2 women in the NBA that can dunk. And you bring LeBron in there, who actually can jump over people.
This is very, 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 very true.
Yeah, so I think you're trying to make an apples to orange. You using it. One example is like when white people use an example of one black man. Actually, no, I have more examples. They have the trans women who ran track who didn't win as when they were before they transitioned. Like you had they were on the track team and didn't win any track meets before they transitioned. Then when they transitioned and took the hormones, they went and broke all the records of the women's team. So there's more examples. So again, you're trying to use hyperbole to try to, I don't know what, but Sam Hogan, but they can have a non-public conversation on social and you can have it productive. And yes, if you say something phobic and I tell you, we can still have the conversations if both sides aren't expensive. I've literally had a combo just like this. Yeah, when do you think trans women start transitioning? At different times? Like, I don't think all trans women transition at the exact same time. I don't know what you think these gotcha questions are doing. Like, I'm not afraid of them, so you can keep asking. Uh, I don't know what point that you're trying to get at. Like, if you want to say because of science, if LeBron James went to the motherfucking WNBA, she would not have a competitive advantage, then we can't really have this conversation because that's just unfucking realistic. Ronnie said, I don't care how much I'm in the gym, I'm gonna still get my ass whipped by Muggsy Bogues.
She picked out of all people, she picked Muggsy Bogues.
But let's go back to the John Gruden thing, man. I want to go back to the John Gruden thing. Why do you think? I want to ask the panel. Why do you think when the emails came out about the disgusting shit he was saying about black folks, nothing happened? But as soon as a homophobic slur came out, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Quincy, I'll go to you first.
Well, I think one of those things. Well, one reason is because black athletes, black players, black activists didn't call for his resignation. So there wasn't no pressure applied from the black community regarding that comment. Now, that's one thing about the gay community. They do. They're going to apply pressure, and they apply consistent pressure. And so, I think when the email came out about the big lip comment came out on Friday, you had some Randy Moss and a couple guys say that they were upset, but no one ever mentioned, unless I missed it, no one ever mentioned, well, you know what? He needs to step down. He needs to resign. You had Tony Dungy, you had Mike Tirico, you had people actually come out, well, I don't think John is a racist. Then on Monday, not only he touched on gays, but he also touched on women, and then it had more racist stuff. So he had hit the trifecta in 3 days, where he offended gays, blacks, and women. And when somebody got over 600,000 emails over 7 years, and you don't know what the hell you didn't say it, because I'm sure there is more, and then you're calling the commissioner the F word. I think that he knew at that point it was time to go. And also, I talked about the Raiders. I mentioned the Raiders' legacy as far as being barrier brokers. Al Davis wouldn't allow the Raiders to play a preseason game in Alabama because of the racism. Al Davis drafted the first HBCU player. Al Davis hired the first Latino and black coach. Al Davis hired the first woman to front office in the NFL. So I just think, as optics wise, just from the Raiders organization and their legacy, he couldn't stay. And although it came out that he resigned, I think Mark Davis knew that he had to go. But go back to Dave Chappelle's point, like for 3 days they and some of that is on us. There really wasn't no pressure applied for him to resign. You actually have players coming out and putting their arms around him, and but the gay community don't play that, and they're consistent about that. So I think that's why he knew after that came out he had to step down, because they wouldn't have let up. And also with the Raiders having a gay player who actually took a leave of absence today from the team, there was a lot of just bad optics there for John Gruden that I don't think. I think he's done. Period. As far as football and mainstream media.
We got a comment from GZ Doctor Forever. I want to address this. He said he has someone from the LGBTQ community on his team. He got a pass for the big lip email because people thought it was a one-off comment. So I want to unpack this. So why would that one-off comment be okay though? Even if it was a one-off comment, why would he get a pass on a racist comment, even if it's a one-off? And I think this is to your point, Quincy, where it's like nobody else would get away with a one-off comment like, oh, he only said one bad thing about the LGBTQ community. Let's see what else comes out. That's not what happened. So why is it okay to give that pass? Let's go to Chandra.
I agree with much of what Quincy was saying, but also too, we see it time and time again with the gay community for whatever reason, whether or not it's just people are just so overly sensitive about it, or whether or not what Quinn said, they fight harder for it, come out and speak out against it. Like Angela said, like we're used to it. So we don't have leaders to come out and say, hey, this is wrong or whatever. But I mean, we see it time and time again. Like it's right on cue, right on point. You say something about the LGBTQ community, that's it. You're done. Like there's no coming back from it. So I don't know. My question would be, if that came out first before the racist stuff,
would he have got the whole weekend?
Would he even have survived?
No.
And no, I don't think so.
Because that gay player on the Raiders wouldn't have played. And that would have really caused a problem. And so that kind of goes back to NFL players, and I want to make the distinction between NFL players, because if a coach in the NBA would have made a big little comment, they have no problem saying we ain't going out there to play.
Yeah.
The NBA players don't fuck around. They don't care how big the game is. They would be like, hey, until he's gone, we won't go out there and play.
NBA players, big different.
Different. But somehow the NFL is built different. But that particular player, that gay player on the Raiders, haven't been back to practice since. And that's exactly what had happened if that had came out first. And that would have put pressure on Gruden to resign, because if the black players had that same attitude, because like Dane mentioned, you got a lead that's 80% black. Yeah. Now, I don't know the percentage on the Raiders, but if those black players say, hey, I'm not going to play as long as he's coach, Gruden is gone. But that didn't happen, and that tended to be something, NFL players, with the racist issues, and we kind of saw that with Kaepernick, with guys not backing him and things of that nation during that era. That NFL players are built a little different when it comes to standing up for social issues.
For sure. And finally, our last section of this, and man, this has been a great conversation. I appreciate everybody, even the people in the comments trying to navigate this. I see that Sam and Mynisha having side conversations, and that's why we do this, right? That's what we want. We want to open these conversations. We want to open these discussions in a form and in a manner that, there are a lot of spaces that we don't have these conversations, and we can't, and we haven't been having these conversations. So I appreciate all you guys in the comments and everything that's going on with that. So the final piece of this puzzle is when we're talking about my fam said John was probably being blackmailed all this time. Why not leak the email day one? I think the Raiders was trying to get out of that 10-year, $100 million contract on some real shit. Because if you got 7 years of emails that he's saying all this wild shit, and only his shit got leaked, what the fuck was people saying back to him for 7 years? What the fuck was the replies for 7 years?
But then let's break down its full context. This was an investigation on the Washington football team. Bruce Allen used to be the Raiders GM when Gruden was there. So they became friends. So Bruce Allen was the GM of the Washington football team. So this is a email conversation between Gruden and his friend. The Washington football team has been investigated. We haven't seen none of Daniel Snyder's, the owner, emails, and his team was actually being investigated. But Gruden shit comes out.
And like the only shit, like I'm like, yo, he wasn't talking wild like this for 7 years, and they was like, hey, you gotta chill, John.
Or
That would have came out too.
Or like, okay, it's a conversation, so you're not just gonna just come out of the blue and be like, yeah, black people monkey lips or whatever. What's starting it? Where are we? What's the context? You know, because
I mean, it's bad. He talked about Obama. He talked about the Kaepernick. He called people. He
So
called,
to that earlier comment, Quincy, then it wasn't a one-off comment.
no.
It was it was 1,000 off.
So
I
1,000
mean,
off.
it's weird too because I don't know what it is about football players, man. But we all know the difference between football players and basketball players. Like we know that there's a difference. I don't know if it's because of the tackling. I don't know if it's a chicken comes before the egg. Like I don't know what it is, but we all know there's a difference between football players and basketball players. And the football player, they just be head down. They just be. I think if they all knew this, if they all maybe half. If they had read half those emails, I think the football players still would have been playing. Like they would have been like, you know what I'm saying? Basketball players, different, nigga. He's out of there. Football players,
hey,
they grinding, bro. They don't care about none of that.
I'll never forget when that those audio tapes came out with Don Sterling said who was it? It was Golden State and the Clippers. They was planning to drop their uniforms off in the middle of the floor and walk off the court. And
Basketball players make more money than
has got to go.
It's not just money, Garnell. The reason NBA is guaranteed contracts.
Yeah.
NFL is not.
Right. I mean, that's terrible.
But that's terrible. But if every single black player, they ain't gonna cut every single black. They're not gonna get
Most of them
replaced.
still not getting cut. If
Yeah.
a team do it, they're not getting cut. But I feel it. I get it.
But like you said, it's that mentality that keeps them there. Like that oh well, I need my money because where a basketball player got 100 million guaranteed, the only one got 100 million guaranteed in football is probably the quarterback and maybe one wide receiver. The rest of them niggas is living on the edge. Them niggas is one Achilles away from working at a grocery store, nigga. So
yeah, they just build different.
So I want to talk about the final piece of this puzzle. And again, like I said, man, this has been a fucking great conversation. Quincy asked a very interesting question, and I could not answer it. And I don't know what's the right answer or the wrong answer. And I want to talk about that within the context of John Gruden and his emails, even though we find out today the emails, because at first it was there's like the emails are 2011. That's how they was framing it. But they're like, no, this shit's from 2011 to 2018. So this nigga been wilding for a very long time. But I still want to utilize this conversation in the context of John Gruden and Kevin Hart, right? When Kevin Hart got the Oscars taken away from him for old tweets, and now John Gruden losing the job for all his emails. Quincy asked the question. He said, how long should we go back when it comes to something like this, when it comes to email and behavior, and how do you decipher who gets canceled, who doesn't, or has someone evolved in their thinking? Like how do we navigate that in this age of cancel culture? And I really didn't have a real answer because
and the reason why I thought about that, because I think about myself. 10 years ago, me, Obama, and John Gruden probably had the same thoughts on gay marriage. Cause see, I had to hurt some people's feelings. I don't know if people really understood how Obama felt about gay marriage when he came into office. And so the point I was trying to, so now when folks go back and you see old emails or tweets, my question was, do we like how much time is acceptable for us that we allow and we accept somebody has evolved in their thinking? Because like I said, my thought process 10 years ago on several subjects is completely different today.
It's really tough to even quantify that because we have several different extremes. Like we look at our Facebook memories from last year and we're like, why was I even thinking that? Like, why? I'm not even friends with this person. Like, you evolve so much in so many different
Some
ways.
people evolve so much.
Some
John
people.
Gruden surely didn't.
So in that instance where, he clearly, we at first thought it was like, oh, 2011. It's like, okay, come on, he has a gay player on his team. He clearly the black, because this was my point. This was my point. My point when me and Quincy had this conversation before he posted it was, oh, but I don't know what's wrong with me, but I've been losing my thoughts lately. Like, it was a really good point too.
Yeah, see them kitchen conversations. We gotta record.
You will forget.
My point was, I'm trying hard, y'all. I don't know. It was so good too.
But I'll say this. See, I look at Kevin Hart's situation a little bit different than I saw John Gruden's. And this is why. It goes back to what we just talked about for almost an hour. Kevin Hart is a comedian. And his jokes from 10 years ago is completely looked at completely different now. So he from what I remember, it was kind of like a gay joke regarding his son.
Yeah.
Well, nobody even blinked at it 10, 12 years ago. So his joke didn't change. People's way of thinking changed, and then they punished him for today's way of thinking. So that's why I have asked, because now I'm sure Kevin Hart wouldn't crack that joke now because we're now in different times. But when it comes to like punishing people and holding them accountable to their way of thinking 10, 15 years ago, and this not John Gruden, but I'm just in general, are we setting a dangerous precedent? Because I can tell you just on myself, if you go back and you look at my emails, my text messages, inboxes, etc., 10, 15 years ago, a lot of people be heavily offended because I probably say within the past couple of years stopped saying the F word as far as pertaining to gay people, because
Damn, you out.
Oh, your sound went out.
Yeah, because can y'all last stop calling me? I'm on the show. Because I realized that we in different times, and y'all remember back when we was going to school, we dropped all them bombs, the F bomb, the S bomb, that's but times is different, and your ass to lose your job, saying the things that we said growing up that people didn't even even turn their heads to. So I had to change and I evolved. But when folks always ask, well, Q, why you want to get in politics? It's probably my biggest fear, because my way of thinking and talking back then, if somebody screens up some shit, especially up in these Facebook groups, my ass would be in trouble. So
I remember my point.
Yes, give it to us.
So again, we have to, I know it's hard to say case by case and situational, but I think sometimes it's like that because we want to have the conversation. We try to talk to people about, understanding, getting better, doing better. But then when they change, or when we look back 10 years and we're like, oh, they're, we don't accept that they're different now. So we can't have it both ways. We can't say we want people to evolve and change, and then when they do, we're like, oh, but look at what you did and what you said in 2011. Now, in John Gruden's case, it's a little bit different because that was 2 years ago, and he was still on the turn up. So, like I said, situational. But
still on the turn up.
Yeah, because if we want people to know better and do better, then that would mean back in the day they were, you know what I mean? So now let's kind of move forward. But I do think it's more situational. Him is a very bad example.
All right, my niece, I want to go. She said with the Kevin Hart thing, didn't he refuse to apologize? I can't. No, what Kevin Hart said was he he had apologized when the first, because kind of like some shit will get dug up every 2 years.
Yeah.
So he apologized first and did his rounds, and then it got dug up again when he got the Oscars. And then once again, he said, "Yo, I'm not gonna keep apologizing. I already apologized for this. My behavior has changed. Y'all know who I am now. I'm different. I'm not gonna keep doing it." That's what happened.
Yeah.
And to Mynisha's point, I know we keep going back to the John Gruden, Kevin Hart thing, but I think those are good flashpoints for us to utilize, right? I think another difference, and to your point, Chandra, about a case by case basis, I think another difference is John Gruden making comments about black men, about women, and gays. He has been a coach and a general manager, so he has a position of power to actually hire and fire the people that he has biases against as well. And I think that's an important piece when it comes to having these conversations. Like, that means he can be biased towards his own black players, which is why he probably don't care about them in the concussion protocol, because their bodies are discardable to him. He doesn't want women referees other than for anything that they're women. So that means if he felt that, he's never going to give a woman a job as a sideline coach. He's never going to give a woman a job outside of what the normal parameters of like a physical trainer are on that team. So that means there's a ceiling for the women on that team. And then if he has a problem with gay people, he's probably not going to give gay players the exact same opportunity he would if he didn't know the player wasn't gay. Because I guarantee you there's more gay players than we know. That's just the reality of it.
There's definitely more than one.
Yeah. So you know what I'm saying? So like, nigga, just simple math tells you that. But you know what I'm saying? So the fact that he is in a position of power, as many of these people who get caught doing these things, they are actually in power positions. The same can be said about Kevin Hart. You're right, Frankie, and Kevin Hart has hired gay people and all the above, all the people that he had supposedly had offenses with. So that's why I say it can be looked at a little different, because you go into his production.
To be honest,
go ahead, right now.
To be honest, the Kevin Hart thing, I didn't like the way, and you know what I'm saying, this is back to the Dave Chappelle hate. I didn't like the way he tried to make me feel bad for Kevin Hart, right? Like the way he brought it up is like, we're not letting their families eat or whatever. Cause I feel no type of pity for the Kevin Hart thing. It does suck, and I understand that maybe it's some sort of like precedent that possibly could come up, but I didn't feel bad about the Kevin Hart thing. But to the point, I feel like it is to Chandra's point, it is a very specific situation, right? I think it comes more than time. It has to do with just the way it's handled, right? I think it could be 5 years ago. Obviously, if it's last week, you know what I'm saying, you're done for. But if it's 3 years, 5 years, 2 years, a year ago, if it's the way it's handled, I think you can. If the way it's handled is well, it could be. You could maneuver most things, because cancel culture ain't really what's gonna happen, right? Dave Chappelle said it himself. If this is Kevin Hart, I mean, if this is cancel culture, then I'm loving it. You know what I mean? Like, cancel culture is not gonna stick hard enough to really destroy, especially if you're up there to the point where we're a trending topic. It's not going to destroy your livelihood. So it's just a matter of how you handle it, mostly. I think if you come out with some nice little cute little message, not like the Day Baby thing where we know he didn't write that, right? Not like a, you know what I'm saying, like you just straight up had your agent write you a letter and just kind of push it out there on a tweet. No, if you really feel like you understood and you really are apologetic for it, then you're kind of good for most things. You know what I'm saying? Like Louis C.K. was, jacking off to girls on the phone, and he still had a special that sold out. That's it.
Yeah, I second that. I think that's what got John Gruden in trouble too, because the white privilege still showed in his press conference about it. You can't say racist shit and then be like, okay, and this is the last time I'm gonna talk about it. No, motherfucker, you gonna talk about it every time somebody bring it up. You can't have like 7 years of just dropping racist bombs and just think, okay, you gonna decide when it's time to stop talking about it. And I think that's why those second doses of emails came right after that press conference because it's like this motherfucker still haven't learned his lesson. Whoever it was, it's like, okay, we'll fix him. We're gonna drop this bomb. But I also wanted to address somebody mentioned that I stopped using gay slurs because it wasn't harmful. It was because of time change. Actually, my whole because I'm not afraid to admit I was very homophobic. I had my personal reasons of why I was homophobic, and I ended up working somewhere, and I became really cool and friends with a gay guy, and that actually changed my perspective on a lot. And so, although I do still say, with him or with friends, you know, uh, I still use certain slurs or whatever. I'm also aware of not everybody's going to be as acceptable to my words as my friends are. So that's what I'm more conscious of. So I just wanted to because I know what's cool with one person might not be cool with the next person. And I'm very conscious of that period. That's why there's certain words I won't even say around old black people because I know old black people look at things completely different than our generation do. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear. I'm very aware and considerate of what my words do to people. And if people inbox me or hit me up, say, hey, that kind of offended me or whatever, I don't have a problem going back or deleting the post or whatever. So that's the type of person I am. So I'm just not like, oh, times change. I don't care about people's feelings. I'm just going to do this for my own benefit. No, that I'm not built that way.
But also, Quincy, too, I think that also goes to the point of what we're talking about in letting people evolve, right? Because somebody somebody decided, oh, he only said it because times changed, not because it hurt people's feelings. One, if I'm not saying it for my whatever, even if that was a reason, if I'm not saying it, I'm not saying it. But two, to try to cast aspersions on me because that's what you have decided, that's where the conversation goes left. That's where it's hard to have conversations, right? When people make comments like that, trying to make you a phobic, right? Like that's to me is the problem. Because like you said, a lot of us used to use that slur. If you was on any basketball court after 1996 and had video, everybody going down, goddamn it. You know what I'm saying? everybody going down. You know what I'm saying? But there's also education and growth.
Did
Like,
Kobe get in trouble for saying that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I believe Kobe got in trouble for
oh yeah,
saying that to someone.
They caught him lipping. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing too, right? There's some things that we know universally we thought was cool. You know what I'm saying? Not even cool, but like we said it, right? Like everybody used to say that shit gay. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody used to say that, right? But I think there are certain things that even the LGBTQ...
Hold on real quick. Fantastic Frankie, that's not exactly what he said. He didn't say the time changed and I can't joke like that anymore. That's not what he said. Go ahead, Ronell. I'm sorry.
I think there are some words like that that even the LGBT community knows was a very popular thing. So I don't think people, for the most part, are going to go back and look at my words and saying like, oh, yo, you said that shit was gay. You know what I'm saying? So now you cancel forever. I think it's more so when it's rooted into your beliefs, right? Like, I would never, you know what I'm saying? I don't like hanging around gay people. You know what I'm saying? Like once it's more rooted into your beliefs and like your actions, then I believe it starts to turn into, you know what I'm saying? Like you can be canceled for, like cancel worthy if I believe necessarily canceling was really, really, really a thing.
Well, in regards to even the Kevin Hart thing, I don't know because he hadn't made a joke like that in over 10 years.
Yeah.
And he still lost that job. He hadn't made a joke like that in over 10 years. He had amended for it. He had changed his behavior and it still didn't matter.
Well, I'm not saying. Well, what I was saying was that jokes like that weren't necessarily still believed. I'm saying things like saying the F bomb. You know what I'm saying? That shit gay. You know what I'm saying? Certain words and certain things, certain usage was so popular that I think even the LGBTQ community knows that it was so very popular. I don't think they're going to go back and necessarily ban or cancel you.
Well, this is where you got to make
Kevin Hart was
distinction.
different.
Wait, this is where you got to make distinction. The black LGBTQ community understands that. The white don't. There's a difference between, because that's a culture thing, right? Like
Yeah.
a lot of your gay friends know that when you say, "Oh, that's gay," it's a black hood culture thing and not a homophobic thing. But even now, you shouldn't say it because now we know it leads to more homophobia. Even just saying that, right? But so a lot of people learn and they evolve from that. But before this, that's not that's a black culture thing that the white LGBTQ community is still gonna hold you, hold your feet to the fire for that. Not the same way your black gay homeboy would. You understand what I'm saying?
For sure. I think it'll definitely be a little bit different. But things like, again, like I don't ever want my kid to be gay. Like certain very, very, very sore topics that is rightfully sensitive. I think those are the things that you really gotta really prepare for. You know what I'm saying? If those are in your past, then you gotta really probably answer them because you might still hold those beliefs. You know what I'm saying? Like when it's tied into your beliefs, then it's different.
No, yeah, 100%. But that's what I'm saying. I'm saying like I think I agree with your sentiment that if it's tied into your beliefs, because I think that's kind of what we kind of saying with the John Gruden thing, right? Like we feel like he still feel that way today, right? But I think Kevin Hart had shown that he had evolved, he wasn't the same, and it wasn't still
Yeah,
tied to his beliefs, but he still got the exact same
yeah.
treatment. You understand what I'm saying? Like he still got the exact same smoke because he hadn't told jokes like that since then. He after he apologized, and you know what I mean? Like
Yeah. And even
Did
then,
I want to say Eddie Murphy guys for his old jokes? Like like they had Eddie Murphy came out and apologized for shit he said in the 80s.
I mean, I think that does make sense though. You know what I'm saying? Like if especially if he doesn't believe them anymore, then you should get ahead of it and kind of, you know what I'm saying, make that apology. If you do still believe it, then you got to be ready for that smoke. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think
But
he even believe it
but
anymore.
he's apologizing for the T joke in 1984.
If you are still popular and you still want people to buy your shit, hell yeah. If he just normal and don't care and living his normal life, live your, you know what I'm saying, do you. But if you are still looking for people to care about you and the movies that you do and the products that you do, of course, like if there's somebody who I didn't like in the past, they said some shit that made me think they might not fuck with me, I'm not gonna buy their shit. Now if he come out and say, you know what, that shit was foul, I do actually fuck with y'all, then we good.
Don't you think within damn near that 40 years, if people was gonna be offended and canceled, Eddie probably would have been in between that time for things he said.
Nah, if you saying some shit that makes me think that you don't fuck with niggas named Ronell, the niggas that look like Ronell. If you said that 20 years ago, why would I think that it changed 5 years ago, 5 months ago? I have no reason to believe that changed. If for some reason he
We're talking
married a
about
nigga named Ronell, then we good. But like, there's no reason for the change, then it's different.
so the scene in Beverly Hills Cop where the two dudes walking down the street in matching Thriller outfits, and Eddie started laughing. He he should have to apologize for that.
He shouldn't have to do anything. But if he feels like that is going to offend someone who he does no longer want to offend, why wouldn't you want to apologize for that? If you don't want to offend them, if someone is telling you that that is offensive to me, whether you believe it or not, if someone tells you this is offensive to me, okay, and a group of people say that, you can
but
either
so I think that goes to the point then right now. So that means even if his behavior has changed from 40 years ago, they can go back and take something he said in the 80s and cancel him now because he hasn't apologized for it yet. I think
cancel's a
that's
big word, but you
I
can
think that's a slippery slope though, honestly. Like if you're saying if because on the one hand right now you're saying, well, if his behavior has changed and he hasn't da 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 da, then da da. But then on the other hand, you're saying, well, if he said some shit in the 80s and that shit come back, he should have to eat that. I think it can't be both.
I think here's the thing.
Is it about the change of behavior? Is it really about the change of behavior, or is it about just getting at somebody?
If now here's the thing, here's the disparity that I need to make here to be very specific. The change of behavior can't be from hating to neutral, right? That's not going to work for most people in most situations, right? You can't go from talking shit to not talking shit, right? That's a change of behavior, but it's not a drastic enough change of behavior for anyone to believe that you no longer want to talk that shit. From not talking that shit to really fucking with, again, like an Eminem type of nigga, right? Even though he got a little bit of white power fucking with him, right? He talked his shit about the gays over and over and over and over, and still
And the
do.
blacks.
And the blacks.
Like, let's not forget that.
Did his whole thing, right? But amended, been on screen, talked about his thing, and now the people who fucks with him know that he's just a raunchy, wild, whatever dude, whatever he says is just crazy. They still gonna rock with him because they know that, feel that he is a changed person, right? So again, you can't go from just not talking shit. That's where the behavior changes. You got to go from to making amends, right? And then you're good. Then you're good. And either way it go, I'm not saying that
I
super
think
good.
I
I'm saying the
disagree.
chances
Like, we don't
are
have to
less
say
likely.
I think I disagree with that. I think I disagree with that notion. Me personally. What you think, Chandra?
No, because then we would all be subjected to at some point have to apologize for something we've said in life at any point in life for offending anybody at any point. If I
you're not,
decide that I want to become an actress or comedian, now I got to go back into my 2005 archives and make sure that I didn't say anything that could possibly be offensive to anybody ever in life at any point. It's like, where does it end? And we can't even remember. I could barely remember my point that I was trying to make the other day, let alone what I was the other minute, let alone what I said yesterday. So I just feel like I do understand that, entertainers, they're held to like a certain, standard and regard or whatever, but it has to end somewhere, because I could just say, I'm offended because your name is Ronell and you need to apologize to me because I have to look at you on the screen. So now you got to go on an apology tour and apologize to your mom. Got to apologize. Your dad got to apologize for naming you Ronell. Dame has to apologize because he made me look at your name for the last hour and 41 minutes by asking you to come on the show. Everybody has to. It's like where it just gets to be ridiculous.
Oh, let me address this. I love the hyperbole from Twitch. You was right, Ronell. Why are people acting like apologizing is so detrimental to your health? That's not what we're doing, and that's not even the conversation we're having. Like, Jesus.
I mean, hey, I don't disagree. So you either apologize, right? Just a simple apology, right? Or experience tweets, right? Because nothing's happening, right? Nothing happened to Dave Chappelle. Nothing happened to Eminem. Nothing happened really to Louis C.K. Nothing happened to James Gunn. Like, nothing happened to these people, right? With these canceled people that we're kind of imaginarily talking about, right? And there's no real repercussions that has really happened to these people. I could think of maybe
only one.
Person.
Like Kevin Hart lost his dream job, and the other guys you named were white too. But Kevin Hart, like that's his dream job. That may not mean shit to you, but as an entertainer, if there's something you wanted to do, you know what I'm saying, your whole life, that does mean something. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a lifelong dream, and
he could have apologized and had that dream.
But he did apologize. That's the bullshit right there, right now. He did apologize.
But yeah, but this is what we're saying. This is literally what Miss Bree said. Why is it so hard to apologize? I get it. He apologized already. I get that, right? But if this is your dream job, you could have apologized a second time for your dream job. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could have said, and like, you know what I mean? Like, what is this doomsday event that's going to happen where all of us is going to have to go back to our tweets and answer to the LGBT overlord?
I think the problem is it's just not an apology. People want you like to be at your mercy before they finally let go. And I mean, because that Kevin Hart situation was ridiculous because he had apologized multiple times, and it was like, okay, at this point, y'all just trying to just drag me through the mud. And so he just said, fuck it. I don't want to do it. Because you remember he had Ellen and them backing him like, no, it's okay. It's fine. And it just get to that point. It's like it's like being in a relationship. Look, you're only gonna apologize for the same shit for so much till you're gonna be like, fuck it.
I feel it. And if you know what I'm saying, if that means more to you than your dream, and I'm saying I disagree with them. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that again, what you just said was more so hyperbole, right? Of like, where does it end? Kind of like bowing down or like kind of having control over them. That's not really it, right? Like it's for the Oscars so white. You know what I'm saying? Your dream job was to kind of host for the Oscar's so white, you know what I'm saying? Like, and they could do what they want, right? So yeah, if you want to have that, you're still at their, what you would say, I guess, mercy, right? For just having that apology, right? I don't think that any of us at any point of time will have to go back through our tweets or anything and really have to go back and figure out why we said what we said. And if we did, seeing how we have these type of conversations, how we have shown that we, you know what I'm saying, is cool, you know what I'm saying, we cool with people, then we would be okay. And if we weren't okay, if as long as we say, yo, I'm willing to learn, you know what I'm saying, like, hey, maybe that was terrible. Actually, that was terrible. Let's figure out how to make this better because I really do apologize. I won't be going on tour for a while, whatever. You're going to be good. You're 100% without a doubt going to be good. I promise.
But I
It's just
think
in how
that
you handle it.
that's the issue that I have too, because we have seen it where people like apologize, people like that's the Kevin Hart example, and they still like are like, no, that's not good enough. So I think that that's more of the problem where you're right. Like, of course, we're not going to have to answer to like the previous tweet overlord in the future. Like, we're nobody. But for him, that was exactly what you said happened. What wouldn't happen happened. Like, literally.
Yeah,
You
he
know,
literally did all of that.
he
Everything you
did
said,
literally
he did all
everything
of that.
you
And they
said,
still was
and
like,
he
fuck that.
still did not get what he wanted.
You know what I'm saying? At that
So
point, it
it's
became
like,
politics because it was the Oscars. It was always getting ready to come. They was like, fuck it. We don't even know if we can really do this right now. That's a very, very, very specific time in which he was okay in the end. He was okay. He made movies. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't canceled. At the end of the day, he was perfectly fine. Right. And even then with that tweet, he wasn't like a stand-up thing. It was a whole tweet that said, like, I'm going to beat my kid if he tries to even act gay down near. Like, that's, you know what I'm saying? That's something that someone would have to
Said if
make
my
very
kid
big
plays with a
admits for.
dollhouse, I'm gonna break the dollhouse over his head. That's what he said.
Yeah, it says stop being gay. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a pretty big deal as far as an experience that a lot of gay people, you know what I'm saying, dread, right? So yeah, I feel like that is a pretty big deal. Again, he did apologize. I think they personally, I think they should have been cool with it, right? He apologized. I'm pretty sure Kevin Hart's cool, but they wasn't fucking with it. He was okay at the end of the day. Dream job, that's cute. You know what I'm saying? If your dream job, I doubt his dream job was even to host the Oscars.
It was. He talked about that shit even before he got offered the Oscars.
Dream job.
It's funny that you can minimize what this man's dream job is because you don't fuck with, you know what I'm saying? Where do you have to go? But he did before as a comedian. Like,
Kevin
I've heard
dream job.
his dream job was to do the Oscars, which is a lot of comedians' dream job too. Honestly, it's a lot of comedians' dream job. But yes, his dream job was to host the Oscars because that's like the pinnacle for comedians, and also the fucking price of the bag goes way up after you host the Oscars. This is something else a lot of people don't know. Didn't he say he wasn't going to apologize and then turn around and apologize? Yeah, you remembering it wrong. He apologized, and they said they want him to apologize again. And then he said, look, I already apologized for this. I'm not going to keep doing it every single time somebody brings this tweet up.
Yeah, because
that's what happened.
Brought it up, different co-hosts and shows, and he was kind of done with it, which I feel him. I do.
The crazy thing about it, if comedians came out and said, fuck, we ain't going to do no more gay jokes, that'd be a problem.
Yeah, for sure.
They treating us different. Like,
and you know, I'm glad you brought that up, Quincy, because one place where I see true equality in comedy, and enough people don't talk about this, me and my wife talk about this often, is Wildin' Out.
Oh yeah.
Wildin' Out have gay comics, trans comics, and straight comics, and
white, black,
like literally the melting pot that America is supposed to be. And they let the jokes fly.
Hey.
Like they let the jokes fly.
Hey, and about Nick Cannon having lupus. There's no boundaries. I was like, God damn, like they talked about my dude almost dying. I was like, do y'all have no boundaries on here?
Yeah.
So my question is, how can we get the world to the place that Wildin' Out is, man? Where there's acceptance and the jokes can fly amongst all of them. And there's, you know what I'm saying? Everybody just being humans. Because like I watched Wildin' Out and I'm like, oh shit, they went there and I thought it was going to be a problem and it wasn't. You know what I mean?
Let me tell you exactly what's going to happen. DC Young Fly is probably going to blow up. He gonna get movies. He gonna do a stand up, and once he get to that certain level, they gonna start posting Wildin' Out clips, and he's in. That's exactly what the fuck is going to
DC's
happen.
a smart guy. He's going to handle it with grace. With grace. I really think he's going to handle it with grace. And to that point too, I think Wild and Out is just they're framed in a way that is known to like in this particular section, we talk that shit when we do what we do, right? And you're just gonna have to do it like a roast, right? Like comedy roast, kind of the same situation, right? Like we're gonna talk that shit. Like, and you come in here, this is the whole purpose of this is to talk shit and hurt feelings. So, I mean, unless we can say that the world is about to be a whole place where we just talk shit and hurt feelings, I don't know if that's ever gonna happen.
Well, watch. If one of those dudes blow up and they get to that certain level, it's gonna be Wild and Out clips. All of, oh, he was homophobic, and Jason Lee and all those guys has been on that show and haven't had no issues with any other content anyone have said.
Yeah. Manisha said, I think everyone got to be in the room, which is partially why Wild and Out works.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, to be honest.
She said, but their feelings aren't hurt. They're able to laugh at the jokes.
Yeah, I think it's because they could talk shit back immediately back. That does help.
Yeah, I just thought
I think that's a good point because I don't think that everybody is offended all the time by comics. I think that you can have people in these different communities that actually laugh at the jokes too. It's not everybody that's offended. You know, like you said, the whole of the community is not like, oh, he needs to do this and he needs to do that. But
well, it's kind of like Twitter, right? Like when we talk about Twitter and the Democrats, right? Because sometimes the Twitter Democrats are even louder than the actual Democrats that are in office. So the messaging becomes the Twitter messaging and not what's actually happening in Washington, D.C. I think that's what happens sometimes with these situations where it's like some of the people who you think are offended are supposed to be offended. Like as I said, I spoke to a lot of the LGBTQ plus people in my circle. Like they're like, no, we're not offended. And they explained to me why they're not offended and also told me why the politics of it is offensive. I'll say it like that, right? I think it's the same thing, like how 99% of the Democrats was like, we're not for defunding police. 99%, like they literally got them on record saying it. But the overarching point is that people think Democrats are for defunding police because of fucking Twitter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's almost like the Twitter reality takes on a life of its own over actual reality. And I think that's what happens sometimes in these everybody's offended conversations. Sometimes I think sometimes the Twitter conversation is so loud that the people who you would think are offended aren't really offended. It's a very loud minority. Oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes, it's a very loud minority. All right, man. Shit, it's almost been 2 hours. It didn't even feel like it. Offense reminds me of old school session. The whole group laughing is cool except for that one person. They say, I know you not laughing. All those laughs, but that one dude not laughing got you hot. The nerve of him. And then we all gonna roast the shit out of his ass. That's what will happen next. Real talk, I had the same conversation with myself. My original opinion when my son was born is different than my opinion now. Not too far different. I'll be more accepting now, but not too accepting. My kids know my mouth has no filter. So it's that there. When Michael Richards yelled the N-word in the club, he was canceled because in the comedy setting, there wasn't a joke that came afterwards. With the Chapelle Special, I have a feeling the same thing occurred. I don't know. I don't think it's the same because the Chapelle Special is actually a crafted joke. Michael Richards just got mad and started calling everybody in the room niggas. Like I think that's a very bad comparison.
Yeah, he got mad at a heckler and just start calling people niggas.
Yeah, that's yeah. He turned to Oprah with niggas. You're a nigga. You're a nigga.
Yeah, close though. I like it, Dr. Forev, but no, it's a little different.
Yeah. You almost got there, but not quite. The shit didn't quite curl. Shit didn't quite curl. You tried though. But thanks for watching us on Twitch. Hey man, Uncle Radio, we're gonna get out of here because we've been keeping y'all way too long. I told Quincy I wasn't gonna hold too long, but just like the pastors at church, I lied. We want to thank everybody in the comments. We want to thank everybody for this meaningful conversation. We want to thank everybody for their opinions. You know, we don't always have to agree on everything, but I do want us to always try to do our best to be respectful of each other and respectful of each other's points of views. And you know, maybe we can learn something, even if you agree or disagree. Maybe we can learn something. Maybe we can hash it out. And also, I just think it's an important conversation to have in these spaces, because we do need to have more empathy and more conversation about the violence and the terrible things that are happening to the Black trans community, because I think they are killed at a much higher rate than the white trans community. There's violence against the Black trans community at a much higher rate than the white trans community. So I think that's something that we definitely need to talk about, definitely need to discuss, and that's not something that we are pushing under the rug and taking for granted either within this conversation. So I just want to make sure people understand that. Quincy, go ahead.
Also, young Black boys committing suicide at an earlier level because, you know, they don't know how to deal with their sexuality. You know, you got kids that's 11, 12 committing suicide at a higher rate. So it's definitely a concerning and real topic for Black people, because our culture has never really embraced openly homosexuals unless they are our choir director. So, you know, and since social media has came about, it seemed like the suicide rate and the bullying and teasing and everything have really just elevated. So definitely be conscious of what people going through, their feelings, and what they're battling when it comes to homosexuality and period in life.
Absolutely. Any last words right now?
No. Thanks for having me on. This was good. This was good. I just liked having the conversation. I think it's an important conversation. I think it's important to have these conversations. You know, all that corporate talk. All in all, it was fun. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad Twitch over there got to see it. Got the Facebook crew got to see what the Twitch life is like with all the youngins kind of yelling and screaming at the
Right.
You know what I'm saying, everybody else. It was honestly a blast, so I look forward to it. You know,
Yeah, man, we're gonna have to have you.
I
We got
will
to have you
say,
in the Twitch crowd back right now.
right?
Go
No,
ahead.
for sure. I will say, I do like Dave Chappelle as a human. I kind of want to throw that out there. I do like Dave Chappelle.
And this comment comes in.
Yeah, exactly. I like him. I like the guy. I got a few chuckles out of it, but it's just, you know what I'm saying?
And you know what, Ronnie, I'm glad you said it. I do think we like sometimes like, and in regards to this whole huge conversation, I think sometimes we got to understand that more than one thing can be true, right? Like you could think Dave is funny, and then you could also want to critique certain things. You know what I mean? Or you know, like the conversation we was having about the bio, you know, the bio women in trans. Like I think there can be more than one thing true at the same time. And I think so many times in society we get caught up in this either or.
Yeah.
When it's not always either or, and there's some nuance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because I don't have an issue with trans women. I just don't think they should be in competitive sports against bio women.
Right. So I think, and again, I'm glad we had this conversation, because I think these are the conversations that need to be had. And also we want to normalize these conversations so it don't feel like such a boogeyman conversation when you're talking about trans women. Because I think that's often what happens with hetero Black men, right? Is that this conversation, people are literally afraid to have this conversation for not wanting to say the wrong thing or for not wanting to get in trouble. And I don't think that's helpful. Like getting to the point where you're so afraid to talk about something that, like, cause then where's the learning and where's the evolution?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's his old Black man. The old Black man 60 and above. Don't have a conversation with
I ain't even gonna try. I ain't even gonna try. They motherfucking heads might explode. If you say cishet, they be like, what boy? Call me a sissy? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't even try. But hey, man, thank y'all so much. Thank everybody. We appreciate everybody on Facebook, from the YouTube comments, from Twitch. Definitely gonna get right now on the Twitch crowd back. That brought a different demographic and a different vibe, and I like it. We need that. So Ronell, let me know when you available when certain topics come up, and we'll have you back on, man.
For sure, for sure.
Yes,
Thank you for
sir.
having me.
Man, that was great. And if everybody go check out 8-Bit Closed Fist. That's Ronell's podcast. And no, his podcast is not this serious. His podcast is more comic, video game, gamer, and all of that. So go check out 8-Bit Closed Fist. You still got the app, right?
Yeah, yeah.
There's an 8-Bit Closed Fist app. So go check out the 8-Bit Closed Fist app to listen to some of their past shows. And they do really cool shit, giveaways, toy giveaways, game giveaways, and they have meetups at game stops or in different places. They do all kind of really dope shit. So go check out 8-Bit Closed Fist, man. Thanks again for coming on. Uncle Radio, we out of here.